heart attack, fast fatal heart impact, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new submerged juice. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember you're discreet now, get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we do begin, let us give a brief little review. In the last part, we had a few things happen. We had Deku. Now, Deku and Koya have come to see Deku's parents. Deku, he's decided to take some time off from the organization. He's been there for a little over a year. And at this point, Deku, he's been avoiding his problems. And one of them just came knocking on his door. Now, a master from the White Lotus, they came to speak to Deku. They informed him that the White Lotus wants to teach Deku more about waterbending. And they also did want to examine his performance with the power. Now, Deku, yeah. He told this man straight out, he wants to learn this ability by himself. He wants to learn how to master it. And he'll do that whenever he does go back on his vacation. Now, the White Lotus, yeah. They are obviously very skeptical about that. However, they can't really force Deku to learn if he doesn't want to. So, they want to test his abilities. See where he is and where he isn't. They believe that if Deku, he sees that he can't beat this person, then he'll want to learn. He'll face an opponent that he can't beat, and he'll want to strive to beat them. They know that the Avatar, he must master the 4 elements. And right now, they're trying to dangle a prize in front of him. Now, with that being said, Deku, yeah, he is very annoyed because of this. He knows what they are doing. After a year of being radio silent with them, the moment he comes back, they come knocking on his door within a day. He's a little annoyed, and he does want to have some harsh words with some members, particularly the ones who've been controlling his life. Now, Deku, he would arrive at the beach an hour later. And whenever he does so, he does find something very intriguing. A part of the beach has been sectioned off. And there actually is, well, an area that he does see. The area, it's been not only flooded, but there also is a ring in the center of it. And he's kind of surprised. And somebody does come walk up to Deku. Him seeing their outfit and knowing exactly who they are. As the man has come walking over and asks Deku if he would happen to be, and Deku just bring his hand up, expressing that he is him. I see. Well then, you do understand what we are doing today. I do, yes. I'm facing the man who came to my house earlier. You are aware as to what I have told him, correct? Yes, I am. Now, this will be quite the performance. The area will be sectioned off after you walk inside. When that does happen, you and him will be fighting in the ring. The ring is entirely surrounded by water. And as you are aware, this is very dangerous for both of you. You two will not be in a position of defenselessness from one side. In fact, it'll be all sides. We believe that will be enough to make it a fair match. Do you agree with this? I do. However, I can get down there by myself. Now, Deku will go to walk down the stairs. And whenever he does so, he is going to walk onto the sand. Him feeling it underneath his feet. As he is going to start bending it. Him pushing down as the ground is starting to warp underneath him. And Deku, he actually is going to somewhat get thrown forwards. And the man will go to watch that. Deku, he's using an ability. where he's pushing the very ground underneath his feet and practically sprinting through a wave of sand. Now, Deku, he does arrive in the area where the water does mess with the sand a bit. However, by that time, Deku already does just push off with airbending, him spinning around and closing up the area with earthbending. Before he does get directly over the ring, him throwing his hands out and going to throw out his body, him spinning and going to puff his hands with air, as he does directly land onto the ring and then going to turn, him going to look directly at the man. Quite impressive, Avatar. Little rusty, but that's to be expected. First time I've used airbending in a little over a year. Is it? It's not bad. Then again, being light on your feet, that's one thing you never forget. Especially whenever you used to be an air nomad. Interesting. Well then, I look forward to this match. I've heard much about you. And I am aware that you studied a few years ago, correct? I did. A lot of it stuck with me. Some of it didn't. However, again, primarily taught by my girlfriend. And she was pretty good. Then again, me and her, we do spar a lot. So do understand. If I can beat you, that does say a lot about you. Confidence. Bravado will get you nowhere. You do understand that, correct? I do. Now, Deku, he does bring his hands up. As the man is going to look directly at Deku. Him going to put them up into a stance. And Deku can tell the moment he does have it that way, exactly what stance it is. Okay. Let's see. Haran used that stance with bloodbending. So, the premise is the same with water. Good. Now, Deku, he actually is going to take up a firebender stance. And that does somewhat confuse this guy. As an earthbender, we're going to announce for both of them to begin the match. And Deku and the man do start each other. Deku, he does go directly with his left hand, throw out a left hook, as waters go flying out from behind him, and upwards over towards the man. The man actually going to roll as he has to go to throw out his right hand and go to try and sweep water directly towards Deku. And Deku, he actually is going to bring up his hand and throw it outwards. Deku actually going to force the water backwards and create a bit of a shield. Deku doing so before actually going to bring up his other hand. Him going to throw it out and over his head, as he acts as if he's trying to swing something around his head and then go to throw it out forwards. The water actually materializing together and spinning around Deku's body. As Deku is going to do that, he actually is going to bring up his other hand. Him throwing it behind him and then following through with his other hand, as he does go to collect water and siphon it from the water around the ring. Now, the man to see Deku do this, it's very intriguing what he is seeing, as he's going to dodge and going to bring up his hands. Him collecting water from behind him and from his side, as he actually is going to create a barrier of ice, before going to turn around and actually try and pull up a lot of water. He is using an airbender stance that time. Intriguing. He hasn't seen someone do that before. Okay, then what will he do next? Now, the man is thinking that. And we do actually have Deku, who he does actually go to turn around and leap out of the ring. Him jumping into the water, as he does find it's a lot deeper than he thought. Now, the one that actually does happen, Deku does start to bend. And he actually just go shooting upwards onto the surface, before bringing his hands up and trying to create a bit of a tsunami. Now, whirlpool was actually the word I was looking for there. Deku creates a whirlpool, and the water actually does start to spin. And the man, he does start to notice something strange. As Deku, he actually is able to get onto the surface of the water and start surfing it. Now, the man, whenever he does collect the water, he has to turn around and look to see what's going on. As Deku, he's right there. Him, with one hand, basically gliding along the surface and surfing, and with the other, he actually going to start shooting an ice spike. Now, the man, he does going to bring up his hands. Him going to, with his powers, grab the spike out of the air and turn it into water, as he's actually covered in it. He does going to bring his hand up, wiping the water away, before looking at Deku, and somewhat smiling. Now, Deku, he just going to bring up his other hand, him increasing his speed as he's surfing around the ring. And the White Lotus, they're actually very intrigued. Deku, he's doing something. And clearly this man, he's intrigued as well. He's never fought a bender who does this. And the man actually was going to jump into the water. Him jumping in and immediately starting to surf himself. Now, the moment that actually has happened, Deku, he actually is going to look behind him. Him, with his other hand, actually going to bring his hands outwards and go to throw them upwards as if he's an earthbender. A wall of water forming behind Deku as actually going to somewhat turn, throw his feet upwards, and spin his body around. As, whenever he does so, he does bring his hands downwards. Him going to freeze the surface of the water that he's on. And the moment he does, it is going to spread out. It spreading fast up to the wall he created. And whenever it does that, the man actually does go surfing upwards and flying up into the air. Him going to shoot downwards with his left hand a very powerful gust of water. And Deku, he actually is going to somewhat slide and move, as the ice underneath his body cracks. And Deku, he does get out of the way. Now, Deku, he does stand there, as he actually does go to bring his hands up. Him actually going to throw out more water, and this time, he actually is going to throw out an ice spike, and actually go to kick downwards into the ice as if it's earth, before bringing up his fist and bringing it close to his body, pulling it backwards before just shooting it out forwards as if he's going for a gut punch. And the ice actually going to shoot out. And the man, he actually is going to try and evade. Him left, right, and moving, and trying to evade ice shards. Now, he's actually very surprised by that. He didn't expect shards of ice. And then Deku, he actually is going to do something unexpected. Him going to bring his hands up as if he's a firebender, and cocking back his fist behind him. However, the moment he does, Deku, he has to go to roll his body backwards and dive into the water. And he's just confused. Deku, he had an advantage, but he's underwater? Crap. Okay, let's see. He's on an island full of ice. Okay, the only solid earth is that ring. Where did he go? Let's see. He'll come out from underneath me, that's obvious. But where? Now, the man is looking around. He's just confused. Okay. The ice underneath his feet. Listen for it. The disturbance in the water. Where is it? Now, the man is trying to listen. We actually have Deku underwater. He's created a bubble of air for himself. And he is thinking about a bit of a strategy. He knows what to do. However, this guy, he may not expect it. So he's going to have to be very careful. He can't make shards, but he can treat that ice as if it is earth. So that will actually be very good. Now, Deku, he does get ready for his plan. And we actually have on the surface. The man, he actually is looking around. And he actually does think about a bit of a better plan. If he freezes the entire water surface, Deku will be forced to come out. He has to get out from underneath there at some point. And he knows that he'll break through the ice. So, that's a good plan. Now, the man is going to bring his hands up. And get ready. Him bringing his hands down onto the ice to try and freeze it more. However, the moment he does hear it. The disturbance in the water. Him looking around as he does actually somewhat go to throw himself backwards, sliding on the ice and evading a powerful blast of water. Him going to spin and turn, trying to find where that may have come from. However, The moment he does think he does see Izuku hiding behind a wall of water, he does go to try and blast out. However, the moment he does, he actually is hit in the back with a pillar of ice, and he just gets to spin and turn. Him looking to see Deku, and he's kind of confused. What was that? Shit. Reflection. Let me what the man is thinking. And Deku, he actually starts to get to a bit of work, bringing his hand downward and smashing into the ice. As he does so, the entire glacier piece does start to somewhat come up. And the man, he actually feel the surface somewhat get a bit strange. It's what? Defrosting under his feet. And right now, he can't. Okay, hang on. Now, the man is going to bring his fist down into the water. And whenever he does so, he does going to pull out a weapon. Him making a whip made of ice. And getting ready. As Deku, he actually already does start to blast balls of water at the man. And the man, he does get ready, bringing up the whip and going to slice them in half. As he actually just want to reach out and try and slash at Izuku with a whip. And Deku, yeah, he actually does do a very good job. Him being able to, with his other hand, bring up a pillar of ice and smash the whip entirely. As the man, he actually is going to bring his hand downwards with his other hand downwards to recreate the water whip. Now, Deku, he does stand there, and the man is actually very intrigued. Deku, he's doing very well. I mean, he's already gotten the first hit, and so far, these two are doing good. Okay, let's see. Let's test the avatar a bit more now, shall we? Let me know what the man is thinking. As he does go to just stand there. Him creating a wall of ice himself. And Deku, he actually does take a bit of a cue. Him going to create a pillar of ice and shoot himself up into the air. And he is trying to wait on something. Now, the man is go underwater. And Deku, he's curious as to what the man's going to be doing. However, there's just one problem. The moment Deku is looking around trying to find the man, he does one thing Deku didn't predict. He completely defrosts the water, all of it melting in an instant, as Deku's pillar, it's unsteady. And right now it is tumbling over and falling towards the ring, and into the rest of the water. Now, Deku has to make a choice. Dive into the water and get attacked, or land in the ring and get predictably hit by an attack. Now, Deku has a bit of an idea. Him going to defrost the ice underneath his feet and jump. Now, Deku, he does try to keep it steady. And he does somewhat take a bit of a cue from Bumet. Him going to refreeze the ice and pull it upwards into the air as if it's water. Now, the Earthbender and many members of the White Lotus do watch this. As Deku, he's flying on a piece of ice, him floating there. And the Master, he's confused if he's going to look up from the water. Deku, he's not in the ring, and he can't sense him in the water. Okay, there's no shift. Him actually going to form ice underneath himself, and somewhat going to blast himself upwards and into the air from the water. Now, the man is going to look around. Him seeing Deku floating there and immediately going to blast out as much as he can. As he does blasting at Deku he doesn't expect. Now, Deku, he is staying there. And the whip of ice, or the whip of water, does directly grab onto the glacier, or the piece of ice he's standing on. And Deku, he does feel it somewhat trying to give under the weight of this man. Before it does get to tumble forwards, it actually is sliced in half. And Deku, he does try to keep it together. However, he is just going to let go and fall towards the ring. Now, whenever Deku does go to land, he actually does smash down hard on one of his arms. And he does just want to roll and get back up. Him bringing his hand up and checking his body. as the man come flying out and landing onto the ring. Him getting up into a stance and quickly going to pull the water from his body to use as a weapon. Him creating a new whip and asking the Avatar if he really thought that that would work. Honestly, I was taking a bit of a cue. Travel has been hard. And earthbending? Yeah. Floating rock ain't too different from floating ice. I see. I do have to say that was very intriguing. It's a new one, actually. Not one I've encountered in my training. Well, learn from the other elements. It's quite intriguing. Learn from your opponent. Study their movements. Incorporate them if you do need to. It's quite funny, too. You want to know how? Tell me, Avatar. Funny thing about firebending. You can create steam. However, not a lot of people know something about it. Steam. Correct. The opposite is true. So, how about we deal with some frost? Deku bring his hands up, and going to blow out cold air. And Deku, he does try to do this. He's taking a bit of a cue from firebending breathing. And he does get to blow out a puff of cold air. Now, the man is a bit surprised whenever the ring does start to get covered in mist. And he's alarmed. It's weird. He can't see properly. Okay, well, freeze it. Now, he does go to attempt to do that. Him trying to pull water out of the air. And the moment he does so, there actually is Deku, who he actually has come rushing in and taking a cue from the man. Him creating whips out of water and going to restrain one of his arms. As whenever Deku does so, the man he actually does look forwards, attempting to see Deku. And Deku, he is standing there with his arms completely covered in water. And Deku, he's using a very, very particular form of water arms. The Kraken. Now, I really hope everyone gets that reference. Now, Deku, he's using these squid arms. And the water is completely covering them. As Deku does hold the man down. And the man, he's actually trying to fight against Deku's arms, trying to bend the water that Deku is bending. However, he can't really do that. And Deku does tell him that it was a good match. But did he really expect to win? I have to say, the Avatar is quite skilled. But you're forgetting a few things. Never underestimate your opponent. I don't. Well, what exactly am I forgetting? Oh, something simple. The man throwing up one of his legs. As whenever he does so, he actually is going to kick it to the side. And Deku, he does going to try and move his body. However, he actually is hit in the chest by a blast of ice, or a rock of it. Now, Deku, his focus is somewhat broken, and the man is going to grab onto Deku's water, him bending it and using it for himself. As the moment he does, he actually is going to somewhat lash it outwards to try and grab the Avatar. And Deku, he does going to bring his hand up, him going to firebend by accident, and the man is going to somewhat throw himself backwards. As Deku, he's trying to catch his breath, him jumping to his feet and quickly somewhat jumping backwards a few steps. My bad. I see. Intriguing. I didn't expect that. You almost got me. Sorry about that. I guess that won't disqualify me, would it? It is not. However, we are waterbending. Now, somebody would talk about how that should have disqualified him. But the man was not going to turn, informing them this isn't his usual opponent, so he will allow that. Now, if they are done, then they will be continuing their match. He looks a lot more serious. But at the same time, there's that look in his face, the look in his eyes. This man isn't the same guy he thought he met earlier. This guy loves to fight. Now, Deku does see that. And the man, he is standing there with the aquatic arms that Deku had, expressing a few more things, as he actually was going to throw the arms backwards and into the water, as he does start to grow more and more in size, expressing to Izuku that, how about they do get a bit more serious, and the Avatar does show him what he is truly made of. Now, Deku, he does see that, and he actually going to fight against the man. Deku actually going to back up and leap backwards into the water, and whenever he does so, he does get to somewhat step out with his own Kraken or Golem created. Now, the two, they do both stand there. And the man, he actually is doing something strange. And Deku, he does get to somewhat stand there as well with his own giant creation. And the two, they do go attack each other. Now, the White Lotus, they are actually very intrigued. These two were supposed to have a sophisticated waterbending match. But right now, what are they looking at? Two giant water creations are fighting. And they're practically trying to slap each other around. This is not what they expected to see today. And some people are very disappointed. However, there actually is another waterbender who is standing there. And they are expressing how exactly they are doing this. The two are both very skilled in multiple ways. The Avatar may know multiple disciplines, multiple other bending arts, and he is incorporating them to fill in the gap in his knowledge. That he cannot be blamed for. However, he is fighting somebody who does know the things that Deku is lacking. And if they do look at what he is doing, the way he is moving, Deku actually is copying this man. And a lot of people, they're surprised to hear that. What they basically just heard is Deku is trying to learn and copy moves that he's seen this guy do. Deku did that with the water arms, incorporating them as a way of the water whip the man used. Now, the two, they are fighting. And there actually is whenever the two giant golems do clash together into one giant piece of water. And Deku actually does shoot himself forwards. Him flying towards the man and smashing into him where the two are in the same space of water. Now, the two do go flying out of it. And Deku and this man, they do go falling downwards and smashing into the water. The man hitting it on his back. Now, Deku and the man are going down. And the man actually is going to bring his hands up to try and bend. Him attempting to use water to try and wrap it around Deku and trap him. Now, Deku, he actually is fighting back. However, the man actually does have it firmly wrapped around Deku's neck. And he actually is trying to wrap Deku up in tendrils around his body. And Deku, he is attempting to fight back. Him trying to push this man away with the water. Now, Deku is trying to create a bubble of air underneath them, or at least in between them. And the two are both trying to hold their breath. And there actually is Deku, who, his eyes do start to glow. And the man is going to look directly at Deku and see that. As Deku is going to push the man away. And the man, he actually does smash downwards onto the ground. As Deku, he does create the bubble and immediately get a gust of air. Or, get a breath of air. Now, Deku does start to bend the water around them. As when he does so, the two are standing. And the man is going to get up and take a deep breath. Well, I gotta say, that's the Avatar state, isn't it? Now, Deku does stand there. As the giant arena that he has created just starts to freeze in place. And the man does stand there, looking at Deku. He has just created an entire ring underwater. And sadly, there's not a lot of water down here. He can bend the ring or the dome Deku just created. However, that would just let the water come rushing in. The only water he has is on the ground and covering his body. Right now, he's fairly limited. If they break through, though, then they can get out. Now, Deku is going to turn off the avatar state. And when he does so, the man is going to look directly at Deku. I have to say, that's impressive, seeing it close up. Thank you. Deku taking another stance. You're very skilled. I know. I've had a good teacher. So you say. But Avatar, may I ask you a question? You may. What have you been doing in this time? I've been traveling. You say that. But where have you really been? I've been curious. I've been traveling. Where else could I have been? I've heard reports that you were investigating the children of Ozai. Is that correct? I did. I thought I found something, but they were a dead end. Are we gonna fight? I see. Well then. Now, the man is gonna throw out his hand. As we're going to see that there's no water. Him pulling his hand backwards as Deku he's actually smashed in the back of the head by a large chunk of ice that was on the wall. And Deku is going to fall forwards and hit the ground as water does come rushing at his feet. Now, the moment Deku he's covered in water, the man is going to bring his hands up and go to directly freeze the water covering Deku. And Deku does go to directly unfreeze it. As the man, he does go step forwards in rushing in. And he actually has attempted to go for a knockout, trying to take Deku down as Deku, he does go to look up. Now, the man has attempted to try and wrap the whip around Deku's head and try to basically cut off his airway. However, the whip is a little too short, and the man actually is going to hit Deku across the face. As Deku, he does get to feel it and a large stinging sensation in his head. As Deku, he does just somewhat bring up his other hand, grabbing his face and feeling the blood. Now, the man is going to look directly at that. Blood. Now, he does go to apologize. As Deku, he does stare directly down at his hand and feel it on his face. And he just does get to look directly up towards the man. Him getting a bit angry. Throwing up his hand as the man he does go to try and bring up his own. Listen, I'm sorry. What the? Now, the man is alarmed as Deku's eyes, they fill with the avatar state. And the man, he's confused. He can't control his body. No, this can't be. He's the avatar. Why does he know? Now, the water behind Deku, the dome, completely cracks open, and water just starts to rush in. And we actually have on the surface, where somebody has come floating out of the water. And right now, there actually is Deku. Deku, he does come swimming upwards out of the water. And the man, he's unconscious. Deku has him in hand. However, there's a bit of an issue. One of them is injured. And when they do get back onto the ring, Deku, he has a large gash wound across his nose and one of his cheeks. Now, Deku, he does just sit there on the ring. And he actually is clutching his hand to his face. Now, the man is unconscious that Deku fought. And right now, Deku, he is given proper medical attention by Koya, who would go to try and heal his face. And she actually is very alarmed. And the White Lotus, they want to ask questions. And Deku, he does try to explain what happened. He just remembers that they were fighting and he just doesn't know. He just remembers the man tried to use an attack and he doesn't know if it was short or it was on purpose, but he just remembers this stinging sensation in his face. Afterwards, he just remembers anger and, well, nothing afterwards. Now, Deku is medically checked out. He has a concussion, so that may have something to do with it. And the other man, yeah, he's going to be unconscious for a while. However, they're not too sure what's wrong with him. Now, They think that it might just be because of what happened underwater, and the fact that he may not have been breathing for a minute or two. However, whenever he does come to, he does try to give a report as to what he saw. Now, Deku, he isn't blamed for what he did. It was the Avatar state. And Deku, he must have saw this man as a threat, if he lost control like that. However, it couldn't be blamed. This was just supposed to be a friendly match. However, the fact that Deku used bloodbending in the Avatar state, that they don't believe that has ever happened before. And they're curious if Deku, he might know this art. Now, Deku, he would flat out deny it, as it is blamed clearly on the Avatar state for right now. However, the man, he's confused. He remembers before losing consciousness. Deku's eyes, they glowed after he turned on bloodbending. Or was that just what he remembers? I mean, he didn't mean to hurt the kid, but could it have just been shock? Is he misremembering it properly? Now, the White Lotus, they need to back off for a minute. They wanted Deku to learn more about waterbending with their ways. But right now, they made a bit of an oopsie daisy. So, they're going to be stepping back. And Deku, whenever he does return home, in Konosashi you see Deku with a bandage on his face. And they're all concerned. And Koya, she tries to explain what happened, since she is an eyewitness. To the second half of it at least. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.